My name is Ethan, and this is the story of how the most painful betrayal of my life eventually led me to the woman I was truly meant to love. I spent that entire day with a heavy feeling in my chest. The night before, my wife, Vanessa, and I had gotten into a terrible argument. She said things that hurt me more deeply than I could explain. She refused to sleep beside me and locked herself in the guest room. I did not sleep at all that night. I simply tossed and turned, replaying every word she had thrown at me and torturing myself with questions. By morning, I was exhausted. At work, everyone could tell that something was wrong. One of my coworkers even said that I looked like a zombie, and he was probably right. I had not closed my eyes for a single minute. Vanessa's words echoed in my mind throughout the day. She had not merely spoken to me. She had thrown every complaint directly in my face. I knew our marriage had been troubled for some time, but I did not believe I deserved the cruelty of what she had said. That night, after she shut herself in the guest room, I went after her and tried to make peace, as I had done after previous arguments. I stood outside the door, knocking and asking her to talk to me. After I insisted for several minutes, she finally shouted, "Ethan, leave me alone. Go to sleep." Despite everything, I still wanted to fix our marriage. Before going home the next evening, I stopped at a flower shop and bought her a small bouquet of roses. I thought that perhaps the flowers might soften her heart and give us a chance to speak calmly. I arrived home at around 7:30. The living room light was on, and for a moment I felt relieved. After everything Vanessa had said the night before, part of me had feared that she might not be there when I returned. I parked the car and walked toward the front door, but the house was completely silent. I could not hear the television, music, or even footsteps. When I entered the living room, there was no sign of her. "Vanessa," I called, believing she might be in the bedroom. There was no answer. Still holding the bouquet, I walked down the hallway. The back of the house was dark. The bedroom door was slightly open, and the light inside was off. I pushed the door open, switched on the light, and saw that the room was empty. I called her name again, but the silence remained. Then I noticed something lying on top of the bed. It was a wedding ring. The moment I saw it, my heart seemed to rise into my throat. It was Vanessa's ring. There was no letter, no explanation, and no farewell message. There was only the ring. I placed the roses on the bed, picked up the ring, and stared at it for a long time. Then I opened the wardrobe. All of her clothes were gone. The drawers that had once held her belongings were empty. She had taken everything except the ring. Panic took over immediately because I understood exactly what it meant. Vanessa had left me. Even then, part of me kept hoping that there was another explanation. I sat on the edge of the bed, staring into space and remembering our argument. She had said that I deserved someone better, and that she also deserved someone better. She accused me of not giving her enough attention, love, or understanding. When I finally accepted that she was truly gone, I felt completely desperate. I called her several times, but her phone was turned off. I did not manage to speak to her until the following day. Even then, she refused to meet me in person. She would only talk over the phone. I begged her to come home. We had been together for 4 years, and I still hoped that if I found the right words, she might reconsider. But from the beginning of the conversation, I could hear the coldness in her voice. She had already decided that she did not want to look me in the eyes. Still, hope is often the last thing to die. Then, While I was trying to convince her to return, Vanessa said the words that completely destroyed me. "Ethan, stop insisting. I met someone else." For a moment, I could not even speak. "What do you mean? Who is he? How long has this been going on?" I was so shocked and desperate that I could barely organize my thoughts. "Do not imagine things," she replied. "We are only getting to know each other for now." Everything she had said to justify leaving me suddenly lost its meaning. She had tried to place the entire failure of our marriage on my shoulders, but now another man was involved. Less than 20 days after she left, Vanessa was already posting pictures with him. His name was Ryan. I met Vanessa one final time because I needed to understand how everything had happened. During that conversation, she looked at me and said, "I have not loved you for a long time, Ethan. Even if I had never met Ryan, I would not have continued our marriage. I would have left you anyway." She spoke without considering how deeply her words were cutting me. I looked directly into her eyes and said, "One day you will regret this, Vanessa. You will come back asking me to forgive you." She gave me an ironic smile. "You had better wait sitting down," she replied, "because that will never happen." Her answer hurt terribly, but I was proud, and I still had enough self-respect to understand that I needed to lift my head and move forward. I could not allow one person, no matter how much I loved her, to destroy my entire life. That was the last time I went looking for Vanessa. I removed every trace of her from my life. I deleted the photographs, erased our messages, threw away the gifts she had given me, deleted her number, and blocked every possible form of contact. I did not want anything around me that might keep reopening the wound. I would be lying if I said I did not suffer. When you truly love someone, losing that person hurts. I went through terrible days, especially knowing that Vanessa was with Ryan while I was alone, missing her and trying to understand how she could replace me so quickly. I did not fall into complete despair because I had never been the kind of man who surrendered easily. However, making the decision to continue and actually finding the strength to do it were two very different things. For a long time, it felt as though my life had started moving backward. I could not overcome what had happened. Losing a great love is never easy. Even so, I knew that I couldn't abandon my dignity by chasing someone who had already chosen another life. 10 months passed. I was still hurt and trying to put the broken pieces of myself back together when a friend from work invited me to a gender reveal party. His wife was pregnant, and they had organized the celebration for family, friends, and some people from the company. That was where he introduced me to his cousin, Grace. The moment I saw her, something inside me changed. During those 10 months after Vanessa abandoned me, I had not been interested in any woman. I could not imagine falling in love again because I still felt emotionally exhausted. Yet there was something different about Grace. She was gentle, warm, and patient. She worked as a teacher at a preschool, and perhaps that explained the kindness in her voice and the natural patience she showed toward everyone around her. We spent almost the entire afternoon talking. It felt as though we had known each other for much longer. There was an immediate connection between us, an easy understanding that I had not expected. The strange thing was that I had almost refused to attend the party. I was not in the mood to celebrate anything. Had my friend not insisted, I would have stayed home. But going to that gathering became one of the best decisions of my life, because it was there that I met Grace. Before the party ended, we exchanged phone numbers and agreed to meet again. On our first date, we talked for hours. At the end of the evening, we embraced and shared our first kiss. When I met Grace, I had not completely overcome the end of my marriage. Part of me was still suffering, but from the moment we kissed, I felt as though something had begun to clear the pain from my heart. Grace was not simply a distraction. Her presence reminded me that tenderness, honesty, and love still existed. I knew I needed to be careful. I did not want to use her merely as a way to forget Vanessa. Grace deserved more than that. So I allowed our relationship to grow naturally, without making promises I could not keep. Yet her kindness slowly won me over. Within a few weeks, I no longer thought about the past with the same sadness. Grace and I continued seeing each other, and eventually we made our relationship official. One day, she looked at me with that gentle expression of hers and said, "I'd been looking for someone special for a long time. Since I met you, I feel as though I have finally found him." Then she added, "I have suffered a lot in my life, especially because of relationships that ended badly. I hope you are truly different, Ethan. I hope you will not disappoint me." I smiled and held her tightly. Deep inside, I was hoping for the same thing. I wanted her to be sincere with me, and I promised myself that I would always offer her the honesty and loyalty she deserved. After that, it felt as though I had begun living a dream. The more I knew Grace, the more extraordinary she seemed. Sometimes I almost had to pinch myself because I could not believe I had met someone like her. When a person becomes accustomed to disappointment, being treated with genuine love can feel almost suspicious. You want to believe it, but part of you remains afraid. However, the days turned into weeks, and the weeks turned into months. What we felt for each other grew stronger every day. As we approached our first anniversary, I asked Grace to move in with me. She smiled, and I could see that the invitation made her happy. However, her answer was not exactly what I had expected. "You know that I love you," she said, "and you know how happy I am beside you. But I want to do things the right way, not only because of my parents, but because it is important to me." "What do you mean?" I asked. "I would like us to do it traditionally. First, we become engaged. Then we get married. After that, we can live together. I know it may not make much practical difference, but it has always been my dream. When I met you, I felt that I had finally found the person I had been waiting for. I would like us to follow that path." I could have been disappointed, but instead, I admired her even more. Every day, I became more certain that Grace was the right woman for me. We decided to organize a family lunch so I could formally ask her parents for their blessing. I ordered the engagement rings and was so excited that I told a few close friends from work. Grace and her family planned the lunch for the following Sunday. Then, on Tuesday of that same week, something completely unexpected happened. My co-workers and I usually walked to a restaurant near the company during our lunch break. That afternoon, when we stepped outside, I froze. Vanessa was standing there, waiting for me. I had not seen her in almost 2 years. I will not lie. My legs suddenly felt weak. I stopped in front of her and stared at her seriously. Before I could ask what she was doing there, she requested that we move away from the others so we could talk privately. "What is this about?" I asked. "I heard that you are dating someone and that you are going to get engaged. Is it true?" Instead of answering immediately, I simply looked at her. I could not understand what right she thought she had to question me. She had left me, replaced me with another man, humiliated me, and disappeared from my life. Now, after almost 2 years, she had suddenly returned to ask about my relationship. I did not want to be rude, so I calmly confirmed it. Yes, it is true. Then I excused myself and started walking toward the restaurant, but Vanessa grabbed my arm. Wait, Ethan, I need to talk to you. Talk about what? About us. About what I did to you. I stared at her in disbelief. She appeared emotional, almost as though she were about to cry. I found it strange. When she met Ryan and abandoned me, she had shown no concern for my pain. Vanessa lowered her head. If you knew how much I regret everything, she said. I have wanted to find you for a long time, but I was afraid of how you would treat me. Then I heard that you had met someone and were going to get engaged. I felt something terrible inside. I panicked. I could hardly believe the words coming from her mouth. This was the same woman who had once told me that she had not loved me for a long time. She had insisted that she would have left me even if Ryan had never appeared. Yet now she was standing before me, saying that she had panicked because I was going to marry someone else. I listened without interrupting, but inside I kept thinking that she could not possibly expect me to fall for her performance. Then Vanessa reminded me of what I had said during our final meeting, that one day she would regret leaving me and return asking for forgiveness. With tears in her eyes, she said that the day had finally arrived. She told me she did not care if she had to humiliate herself as long as I agreed to take her back. She looked as though she might kneel in front of me. I know that deep inside your heart, you still love me, she said. Do not get engaged to that woman. Do not marry her. I suffered, and that suffering made me understand that I love you. You are the man of my life. Please give me another chance. For a long time after Vanessa left, I had dreamed of hearing those exact words. There had been nights when I prayed that she would return and tell me she had made a mistake. But now it was too late. I did not reject her out of revenge. The truth was simply that the moment had passed. Words that might once have moved me no longer had any meaning. In fact, I realized that I had something to thank her for. Vanessa had not intended to help me. She had abandoned me, crushed me emotionally, and replaced me with another man. Yet because she left, I eventually had the opportunity to meet Grace. What began as the worst experience of my life had unexpectedly led me to something far better than I had ever imagined. I never wanted revenge, but perhaps Vanessa needed to understand that people's feelings were not toys and that love should be valued before it was lost. I calmly told her that there was no longer a place for her in my life. I had forgiven the past, but I would not return to it. I loved Grace, and I intended to build my future with her. Afterward, I told Grace everything. She already knew the history of my marriage because there were no secrets between us. She did not like hearing that Vanessa had come looking for me, but she felt relieved when I explained exactly how the conversation had ended. And when I say it ended, I mean that it truly ended. Grace and I became engaged soon afterward. Time passed, and today we are married. Vanessa tried more than once to contact me and convince me to reconsider, but her attempts never shook my decision. I had finally learned the difference between clinging to someone because of the past and loving someone because of the future. Today, I understand that all the suffering I experienced was only one stage of my journey, It was a painful lesson that prepared me to recognize real happiness when it finally appeared. And do you know in whose arms I found that happiness? Anyone listening to this story already knows the answer. I found it in you, Grace, the most incredible woman who has ever crossed my path. You won my heart naturally, honestly, and without forcing anything. Loving you felt spontaneous, peaceful, and true. Do you know what I will do to put our love at risk? Nothing. I will never do anything to endanger the love I spent so long searching for, the love I finally found by your side.